Uncle Mort's North Country by Peter Tinnerswood.
Carter Brandon had a week off work. He spent it taking days out in the car. Uncle Mort went with him. This is what happened on the third day, if you ignore the interesting bits. It was evening. Carter Brandon and Uncle Mort had been out for the day. Now they were sitting on upturned beer crates outside the old railway carriage on Uncle Mort's allotment. Swallows scudded at the sky. House martins flickered their white rumps. Fieldfare and redwing, far away across the roar and grumpy mumble of the North Sea, nested in prim suburban gardens and the yards of timbered houses. The sun shone.
I can't stand the sun, Carter.
Why not?
Because it's such a bloody show-off. The bloody thing comes swaggering into the sky like a Liverpool bucko with a shiny backside to his trousers seat, and it screams out at the top of its voice, "Hey up, look at me! Look at me, lads! Drop everything, stop what you're doing, and come outside and look at me." I can't stand it. Give me a good thin drizzle any day of the week. A drizzle knows its place in life. Just gets on quietly with its job of making everybody thoroughly miserable.
Uncle Mort pulled his cap lower over his eyes and scowled at the sun, which glinted on the buckles of his braces and flashed on the metal badges on the lapel of his jacket.
Carter,
Yeah?
do you like Gert and Daisy?
No, I can't stand them.
Good. Neither can I.
The sun disappeared behind a stand of slumbering horse chestnuts at the far end of the allotments. A small, long-haired, black-and-tan dog with a pointed nose, bandy legs and flopping ears squeezed through a gap in the hedge and trotted across the bare ground.
Is that a dog, Carter?
Yes.
I thought it was.
Suddenly the dog spotted Uncle Mort and Carter Brandon. It stopped dead in its tracks. It drew back its ears, barked and wagged its tail furiously.
Hey up, Carter. Watch this, lad.
He picked up a cracked jam jar, polished it on the hem of his jacket, and then hurled it at the canine intruder. The dog yelped, stuck its tail between its legs, and scuttled away into the undergrowth.
You know what, Carter?
What?
I like dogs.
Do you?
Certainly, lad, certainly. I were brought up with dogs, me.
Were you?
Oh, aye. Me dad had a succession of dogs when I were a lad. At any one time, we always had at least 3 dogs in the house.
Did you?
Certainly, lad, certainly. Well, me dad always maintained they were a damn sight more efficient than draft excluders and didn't smell so much in summer. I remember the dog we had when I were born. It were a Lancashire setter called Bismarck, in honour of the famous German statesman of the same name.
Bismarck? It's not a bad name for a dog. It's better than Wayne or Darren.
Too true, lad, too true. Aye, we had a Bolton Otterhound, too. By gum, he were a right comedian, were Neville.
Neville?
Aye, that's what he were christened, Neville, after the tallyman with the boss eyes. By heck, he were a little devil, were Neville. I were only 2 months old when he took me out of the wardrobe drawer by the scruff of me neck and tried to bury me on waste ground outside the steam laundry.
Truth. Did they find you in time?
I think so.
A spiral of gnats coiled and hissed. A lone, lost herring gull circled aimlessly overhead. An aging dry cleaner's ticket was snuffled through the weeds by the faint breeze of evening.
Me dad once had a miniature bloodhound. He could open bottles of glucose stout with his teeth.
Could he?
Oh, aye. And he could open the parrot's cage and steal his cuttlefish bone. And he could open the lid of the meat safe and the lid of the gramophone. He used to like sucking the needles, you see. Ah, he were a right clever clogs, were our Nansen.
Nansen.
Aye, that's what we called him. After the insurance man. Poor old Nansen. We had to have him put down finally.
Why?
Well, started bringing friends back to the house when we were out at the pub. Oh, them wonderful dogs we had, Carter. Cumberland Whippets, long-haired Dalmatians, web-footed sheepdogs, Congleton Pointers, Morecambe Bay Shrimp Hounds. And they was all thoroughbreds with pedigrees as long as your arm.
It's funny, but I've never heard of any of them breeds before.
Long since gone, Carter. Long since gone. The true dogs of the North, killed off by colour television and the advent of one-man buses.
The sun came out from behind the horse chestnuts. Its fierce, strident voice hurled back the sullen northern dusk.
Bloody thing. Never gives up trying, does it?
Do you fancy a spin out in the car?
Nay, lad, nay. Where I fancy going now is long since gone, like the dogs of my youth.
Oh, where do you fancy going then?
To the neighbourhood where I was born, where I was brought up, where I did all my courting and got married to your Auntie Edna in clean socks. All gone now. All them back-to-back terraced houses with the women sandstone in the front doorsteps and black lead in the tram lines. All them street corner grocery shops with sweating bacon joints and tubs of pickled walnuts and bare floorboards stained with mouse droppings. They were the good old days of the north, them were, Carter.
I bet they were.
You didn't have dogs on leads in them days. And when you got bit on the ankle, it was a real bite. You had to go to hospital and get your ears syringed. The sun didn't shine, neither.
No?
No. It saved itself up for them idle devils in London with their garden parties and their regattas at Henley for boats, and their debutantes with flat chests and carroty pubic hair. Hey up, Carter. You paying attention to what I'm saying?
Yes. It's right fascinating too. What did you say you were talking about?
The sun. It had no time for us here in the north. We're too busy ingratiating itself with all them bigwigs in the south. You know where I was born, Carter?
No.
I was born on the back kitchen table.
Were you?
Certainly, lad, certainly. Well, in them days, everything happened on the back kitchen table. You didn't go into hospital for operations then. You couldn't afford it. You had to make do with the table in the back kitchen. Well, they didn't have time to side the pots away from the table before I was born.
No.
No. My dad were bathing the dog at the time. Him and the midwife had a rare old tussle before she could find some space for me mother and the impending me. When I were born, Carter, they found me right foot was covered in homemade chutney, and God knows where the tea strainer got to. Wonder where that back kitchen table is now, Carter.
I don't know.
It's probably been sold for a small fortune in some boncy antique shop. It'll be in some swanky house in London, all polished and done up, and they'll be sat round it talking about poetry and eating Italian food in fishermen's smocks and open-toed sandals. That's all us lot in the north are now, Carter. Antiques.
Do you like Beryl Bainbridge?
Who's she?
I think she's famous.
Oh, is that all?